Kyle Shanahan says Trey Lance is ready. He also says they're not going to cut Jimmy. And there could be a quarterback competition. I'm skeptical that Trey Lance will get a fair shot. But let's say he wins it because Kyle wants him to, and he's just way better than Jimmy, and it's undeniable at this point. Will the Niners keep Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup if they can't trade him? And I don't think they will be able to trade him. What do you guys think?
I could see them doing it, but it'd be very hard for him to be a backup on this roster with the way that he's perceived and everything. Like, there's a template for what this kind of looks like, and we've seen it, and I think it played out great, right? Philadelphia, right? How did that work out when the team had a certain perception of Nick Foles because he actually won the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl for the team. And so Carson Wentz came back off his injury and wasn't playing great and all of that. And there's the perception of the fans and the locker room had this certain notion of Nick Foles as this like superhero. And it cost a coach a job, and it made Philadelphia pretty much fall apart. So it's not a good look, and it's not a good look for Trey Lance. It's not a good look for this team. Like, they need to move on. And so could I see them trying to do that? But yeah, but I don't think it'll work. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Amin. What were you going to say?
I mean, if they can't trade him, right? Like we already mentioned why the reasons why most teams don't want Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And then John Lynch already came out a couple of days ago and said we're not going to release him. We're not going to cut Jimmy Garoppolo because he's too good of a player. So that pretty much means Jimmy Garoppolo will be the backup for the 49ers because I don't think any team wants Jimmy Garoppolo, especially going into training camp. Like, what team is going to go trade for Jimmy Garoppolo during training camp or before training camp? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, the biggest issue that I feel like with keeping Jimmy is that going into the season, let's say Trey does win the job, Trey Lance is going to have some bumps going into the season because this is going to be his first full season playing. He's not going to ball out every single game and have like a Patrick Mahomes 50 touchdown season. Now, do I wish he has that type of season? Yeah, I think he'll have a decent season, but there obviously are going to be some struggles. But the issue with keeping Jimmy Garoppolo on this, one of the biggest issues with keeping Jimmy Garoppolo on this team, I feel like, is that if Trey Lance does struggle, if Trey Lance does throw an interception, or like you said, if Trey Lance scrambles for 10 yards and the team feels like he should have thrown it to George Kittle because George Kittle was open or Debo was open, not only will the fans turn on Trey Lance because they'll be like, all right, you know what? Trey Lance threw an interception or he had a bad game. Why not play Jimmy Garoppolo because Jimmy Garoppolo's on the bench? And then Jimmy Garoppolo wins football games, right? Now, I don't think wins are a QB stat, but at the same time, if Trey Lance does screw up, you have a guy on the bench who fans will probably say, you know what? Why don't we play Jimmy Garoppolo? Jimmy Garoppolo wins football games. Jimmy Garoppolo will never do this or Jimmy Garoppolo will never do that. So the media would, be like, oh, is Trey Lance a bust? Or they'll make up all these narratives and things like that. So
what about his teammates?
His teammates, obviously. Also his teammates, right? The teammates will also be like, the locker room probably might be divided if Trey Lance struggles, right? If the locker room will be like, all right, we should play Jimmy Garoppolo wins his football games. I don't get, you kept him on the roster for what? For him not to play and Trey Lance is struggling? So
he took us to NFC Championship games. I mean, you've heard Eric Armstead talk like this before. He did it 2 weeks ago.
He took us to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Right? We were like, what?
That's our leader.
Away from winning it.
That's our leader.
Yep. So, and like even if you look at the New England situation coming into the last offseason, right? What Bill Belichick did was smart.
Yep.
Because you had Mac Jones and you had Cam Newton. Now, Cam Newton had COVID. Mac Jones obviously was having a good training camp, and he was, Patriots and the coaches and Bill Belichick was happy with what they saw. But Cam Newton got cut. Why did Cam Newton got cut? Obviously because he had COVID, but Cam Newton mainly got cut because Bill Belichick believed in Mac Jones. He said, "You are going to be our guy, and we're not going to give the fans and the team another we're not going to let them have an opportunity to be like, all right, and have a divide in the locker room. We're not going to let that happen." So we cut Cam Newton, and everybody rallied around Mac Jones because that was the only guy there.
That's a great
right?
point.
But Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch aren't doing that. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not going to release him unless and they're not. And the teams, I don't think any team is willing to trade for him. And then going into the season, have the locker room. If Trey Lance struggles, majority of the locker room will be like, all right, Jimmy Garoppolo should start. He does this and that. So,
yeah. I mean, it seems to me like, and even it's a great parallel. What did Bill Belichick do? He did not keep Cam Newton as a backup. And I think it'd be even worse for the Niners to keep Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup because Cam hadn't done anything for the Patriots. He did stuff for the Carolina Panthers. He came to the Patriots and was basically washed up. And he didn't own the locker room the way Jimmy owns the Niners locker room. Not Kyle, not Trey. So to keep Jimmy in the locker room and then Kyle to tell that locker room, look, Trey's your leader now. Forget Jimmy, but he's still here. But forget him. But he's still here. Like, are you kidding me? And first, so there's going to be a lot of players who are like, they're just going to second guess every freaking thing Trey Lance, every incomplete pass, every word he says in practice will be second guessed by a lot of people on that team. What about Jimmy Garoppolo? You think he's just going to stand there and be quiet about the whole thing? Or is he going to be like, hey, George, you were open. Hey, George, tell him he did this wrong and he did that wrong. Imagine if the Niners had kept Joe Montana instead of trading him to the Chiefs and be like, yo, it's Steve Young's team now. But we didn't get enough. The Chiefs didn't offer us enough for Joe Montana. It's the greatest quarterback of all time. So we're going to keep Joe. Good problem to have. Joe's the backup now. How would Joe handle that? You think he would have been like, hey, Steve, man, you're great. You're way better.
How would Jerry Rice handle
that? Job. He'd have been like, Steve missed this. Steve should have done that. I'm better than here. I should be starting. Jerry, don't you think I'm better?
How would Jerry Rice handle that?
Brent Jones, don't you think I'm better? Honestly, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding? I would do that. I would do it. You think Jimmy wouldn't do it? I would. I mean, he should. So, and you already know he has so many people in his corner. Wow, what a mistake that would be. Kyle, do you understand? I think he understands, but I don't know. Human dynamics might be a little bit much for. He's much more on like X's and O's and stuff. It's a terrible idea to keep him.
Even a situation like what if they did something like where you discussed where they don't give Debo the extension and so they wait a year. So Debo's there and all of a sudden Brandon Ayuk's productivity is going up, but Debo's not so much. Debo's gonna be like, well, Jimmy gave me 1,400 yards and all pro season.
Hey, Jimmy.
What the hell?
Jimmy. Yeah. What if the Niners start 2-4 with Trey Lance? Like they started with Jimmy, and Jimmy's on the team. What do?
That would be ugly. Would turn ugly, real
super
fast.
Ugly. Yeah. All right. Double B Studios says at this point teams are signing backup players. There's still a bunch of starters left though. Teron Matthews still available. Stephon Gilmore still available.
Bro, Edmonds is still up there.
They're not coming, but they're available. Nathan says time to bring back the banana hands because it seems like Kyle and John don't want to win a Super Bowl by keeping 2 picks on the roster. Ridiculous. I love when fans say that. Ridiculous. All caps. Yeah, it is.
Grant, this could be it actually might be a really smart move because do you think maybe they're keeping Jimmy on the roster to prevent them from giving that money and making bad decisions?
Or possible, or they're holding on to him so long, so when they finally trade him for a 7th round pick, everyone will praise him, be like, "Wow, they got something for him," as opposed to you trade him for a 7th round pick. Double B Studio says this quarterback competition should have happened last year at this point. Jimmy value would drop even more. Losing to Trey seems like every decision is delayed. Yeah, it seems like if they still want to trade Jimmy and they feel like, well, we don't. There's a deadline. I mean, if they could trade him at the trade deadline, I guess they don't want to. They don't want to give him $27 million. I don't know.
It feels like also like if nobody wants Jimmy and you want him as a backup, if that's really what you want to do, just cut him and then re-sign him.
True. You can cut him and re-sign him. Although he's not going to come back here to be Trey Lance's backup. But yeah, I mean, it's possible the Niners really will cut Jimmy and they won't keep him as a backup because they're cheap. Like, yeah, we want that 3rd round comp pick, but we'd have to pay $27 million to get it. Like, what do you really want to spend $27 million on a 3rd round comp pick?
Yeah,
John,
it's not worth it.
And
especially those comp picks are late 3rd round comp picks because they're really kind of like they're 3rd rounders, but they're
not top 100 picks. They're like 104, 110, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, hey, maybe to answer the question, will they keep him as a backup if they can't trade him? Maybe not. Maybe John and Denise will just be like, I'm not spending $27 million on this backup quarterback. You got to cut him. But we're also having to fire one of you. Flip a coin. Who's it going to be?
It sucks that Trey Lance is in a part of his career, the career where he could just go to the owner and be like, enough of this. Like, get rid of him.
That's what Robert Griffin would have done. This dude says, go away, Jimmy. Oh, it's never going to be that simple. Official BNA Music 88 says if Trey had a bad camp this year like Jimmy did last year, people would say he's not ready. The fix has been in since day one. Again, yeah, it's true. Like Jimmy Garoppolo can go out there and throw 15 picks in training camp and everyone be like, man, he's on fire. If Trey throws one pick, people will be like, what did he do all offseason? That malingerer. Does he even care? Money Shift says they need to keep Jimmy trash Garoppolo on the bench so he doesn't get injured. If they want to trade him, start Trey. Should they just keep him on IR, give him $27 million to not go anywhere? No way. Not going to do it. I think the 49ers' inherent cheapness is going to save them. They're going to cut him eventually because they're not going to spend $27 million for a third-round comp.